Afraid of him. Admit it. You're scared. I'm driving my wife's car, so I want to get a like when we bag the meters, they charge us more than what it costs. No, it's like $150 a month or something like that. I guess that's for the privilege of having that dedicated spot. Yeah, the city loves that. They'll print new bags or like t-shirts for us. They have to. Yeah, I'll get you a pair. I can't believe it's that much. They'll do that before they'll add anything to the show.
That's what I want.
How in the world is that happening? We'll do that. I'll take your picture and take mine.
Hello, Congressman. Carl,
see a lot of people on here. How you doing? Well, I know where you live. So. You had to duck down across the bridge.
I can have your attention real quick. I'd like to welcome you here this afternoon for a special event here at our Victory headquarters. We kind of intentionally keep these rooms small so it looks like it's really packed when you guys get in here. We really appreciate it. It makes a good photo. Feel free to pick up any signs, any yard signs that you might need. We have absentee ballot request forms here. Fill them out, turn them in. Let's get that ball rolling. Also, any donations you care to make, go to the table up here. We'll collect them a little bit later. Appreciate it very much. Right now, I'm going to introduce Dr. Sam Clovis. Sam is running for state treasurer. He's going to speak for a few moments, and we have a few lists of people who are going to speak this afternoon. So, Sam, come on up. Appreciate it very much.
For a college professor, I'll be extremely brief today, so we'll get right to it. I just want to ask you all to please do all you can to turn out as many people to vote as possible in this election. I'm very concerned about the participation we've seen across the country. I know that there is some enthusiasm gap out there. If you look at that, I think a lot of it is we can get a lot of Democrats to come over and vote for us because I think if we take a look at their stable, they're not quite as proud of it as we are of ours. So I want to thank you all for coming out today. Thanks for having me down here. I really appreciate the opportunity. I feel like, as Mary Hanusa asked, if I was going to apply for co-residency in Pottawatomie County along with Plymouth County, where I'm from. But I want to thank you all so much for this, and please do all you can to help this party win as many election potentials as we have this fall. Right now, I want to introduce a very dear friend of mine, a person that I got to know a great deal about and got to be very close to over our time campaigning in the Senate race together. And then he was fortunate enough to jump into the 3rd Congressional District race and prevailed at the nominating convention. My friend, my pal, David Young.
Sam, you're very kind. Thank you very much. I was here last week, and so you've heard kind of my spiel before, but I just want to say, you know, you wonder why we do these things sometimes, and I know why you're here. You love your country. And I'm running because I love my country too. I love this state. I love her land, her people, her freedoms, her liberties, the opportunities that are out there for Americans, this generation and the next. My family came out to Iowa in 1881. I'm a 6th-generation Iowan. And they came out for those opportunities. The American dream, those God-given rights enshrined in our nation's most sacred documents, our Constitution. And they worked the farm, they built railroads, they built churches. They moved down to Van Meter, where I was born and raised and live today. And I got frustrated with what I saw in Washington, D.C., and I went out and knocked on Senator Grassie's door because I wanted to do something about it. And for the past 7 years, I was honored to work for you, for the state of Iowa, side by side him as his chief of staff. And I saw government up close. I saw what worked and what didn't work. And a lot of it doesn't work. It is dysfunctional. But I know what can be done and how to get it done. And I'm ready to hit the ground running for Iowa. We still have challenges, but we've met and we've surpassed many challenges before, and we can do it again. I am an optimist. And I pledge that I will listen to Iowa. I will listen to 3rd District. You know, I can be no better advocate for Iowa in the U.S. Congress unless I know what you're thinking. And I remember who my boss is. It's you. You have the ability to hire me. You have the ability to fire me. And you see what happens sometimes to those in Washington who forget who their boss is. They go by the wayside. The people vote them out. And for good reason many times. And as a person of faith, like many of you, I've seen out there that you can get things done without selling your soul. I'll be true to my principles and my faith, and I'll make you proud. I won't let you down, and I will report often, weekly, daily to the people of Iowa. So thank you very much. It's great to be here. And I just want to introduce Congressman Lee Terry, 2nd District for Nebraska. Thanks for the
give my total support to David. I really want to work with him in the United States House of Representatives, representing both sides of the river together. You know, I've had a wonderful relationship with Tom Latham and Steve King, and we've worked together on issues that affect both sides of the river very well. Great teamwork. And Dave's a great team member. Now, the House of Representatives, and Rand and I were kind of chatting about this on the way over. We've been able to get some things done. For example, just last Friday night, we passed a bill on border security. We did what needed to be done to make sure that the resources were available along our nation's border, to make sure that the human crisis that's occurring there is alleviated. And that we changed the law to make sure that we treated people from Central America just like we treat from our neighbors from Mexico and Canada. Which means a process that wouldn't take years to reunite the family. It could be done in a week or two. And for many of us, that's the most humanitarian thing that we can do is reunite them and their families. The President of Honduras came to Washington just 2 weeks ago asking us to let their children come home. And we gave them that. But the Senate walked away. Now, let me, I should have asked you this in the car. I am. It seemed interesting to me that the House took kind of a symbolic vote early, left town, and then the next day the President, even before the House had passed its bill, started talking about how Congress went on vacation. Therefore, he's got to use that pen. our regal president who gets to just write new laws with his pen. I think Harry Reid and the president were in cahoots together to give or transfer legislative power to the president. And it was interesting to me how very little of the national media even mentioned the House passed the bill. So we do work in the House of Representatives, but when David comes next year and Joni, we're going to have the majority to get things done. And that's why we need to elect doers. That know how to work, know how to find solutions to our problems on our economy, our culture. David is that guy. Conservative, principled conservative, and wants results. And so that's why I'm here endorsing. And now who gets to introduce? You get to come back up and introduce our great senator? I get to. Well, there's no reason to. Everyone's here for you, Rand. And he is, too, is a great principled conservative with great ideas and maybe a future outside of the Senate in ophthalmology. I give to you.
To be in Iowa today. I'm excited to endorse David Young and to be here and to wish him the best. I'm excited for Sam Clovis and hope he'll be your next treasurer. I'm also excited about Joni Ernst. We haven't won statewide election here in a while. We won the governorship, of course. We haven't won the Senate in a while. We lost the presidential election. I don't have to remind you, you got support that. Now, I'm like David. I know Senator Grassley pretty well. We have a great relationship. And you know what? I think there could be nothing better for Iowa than to have a farmer running the judiciary. Positions, you don't have to work very hard to convince me that you would rather have a farmer than a lawyer most days. But it's exciting to be here. I'm excited about the possibilities for our country still. Some days when I get out in the country, when I'm in Washington, I'm sometimes disturbed and sometimes dismayed by what's going on. When you get out amongst the country, Iowa or Kentucky where I live, people really there's this pent-up enthusiasm for what could happen in business, what could happen to all of us if we could just get government out of the way. But I'll give you an example of one of the things that disappoints me sometimes in Washington. We spend $3.8 trillion, we bring in $3 trillion. This is an enormous mismatch. None of you can do it. None of you are for it. We all think you just should spend what comes in. 2/3 of that budget is Social Security and Medicare. Something has to be done to reform it. I get so annoyed. ARP comes and says, oh, you need to tell your senator to keep their hands off Social Security. They're against all reform. But if you do nothing, there's going to be no Social Security. There's going to be no Medicare if we don't fix it. And we say, well, whose problem is it? Is it Republicans or is it Democrats? And I say, well, no, not really. It's your grandparents for having too many damn kids. And they're all retired now. They're all retiring now. It's a demographic sweep and a longevity thing. When Social Security was started, there were 16 workers for one retiree. With all the workers, they had plenty of money for decade after decade. They had surpluses, which they spent on other things. But the surpluses went on and on. But now there's like a little bit less than 3 workers for one retiree. When Social Security started, you lived on average to be about 65. Now it's 80. All those are good things. We ought to just fix them. Reagan did partially fix Social Security, raised the age of eligibility a couple months a year for a couple decades. And people say, you can't tell people that. They won't vote for everybody's going to raise the age of Social Security. It's for me. I'm not raising it on you if you're close or you're on Social Security. It stays the same. But for my generation and below, we will have to, or there will be no Social Security. So that's 2/3 of the budget for the entitlement program. We haven't touched them. The president says he won't look at them unless we raise taxes. It's like, well, he already got that once, and he wants it again. He's unreasonable about this. But I'll tell you the thing that disappointed me. We had a vote about 6 months ago. This was a vote for $3 million for Twiggy the water skiing squirrel. I like dumb metrics, and if you send me one by email, I'll look at it. But I can't see spending $3 million for Twiggy the water skiing squirrel. Is a promotional squirrel that is the spokesman for selling American walnuts in Spain. If you have a walnut farm, I'm all for you. The taxpayer shouldn't be promoting your walnuts in Spain. You sell them. You know, but that's ridiculous. We tried to cut $3 million. But here's my point. We lost the vote overwhelmingly. Republicans and Democrats voted that, oh no, we can't cut $3 million. If you can't cut $3 million, how are you ever going to address the real problem, which is very emotional for people and going to be difficult to accept, that we will have to reform and change Social Security and Medicare? How do we do that if we can't cut $3 million? So I'm disappointed with Washington. But I think if I asked any of you in this room, could you cut $3 million? Everybody would raise their hand, because yes, we have to make those cuts to move forward. The other half of that coin, though, is not to think that this is all about austerity. This needs to be about unleashing the American dream and unleashing the American engine. We won the Cold War because the engine of capitalism defeated the engine of socialism. We're the greatest economic system ever known. We're the richest country ever. We're also the most humanitarian country ever. When Haiti has an earthquake, who gives them money? We do. Billions of it in private money. Probably half the people in this room have given money at one point in time to help others that are less fortunate, either here or around the world. We are an amazing country, but it can only happen if we appreciate our system and try to unleash it again. When Reagan cut taxes back in the 80s, we had 7% growth in 1 year. We had negative growth last year. We got presidents all too busy, doing other things. And then when he is in Washington, he says, I have no choice but to act. What does that mean? Think about that statement. He has no choice. He must act on this immigration thing without any legislation. Who does he think he is? I mean, he's going to act without the authority of you or your congressman. He's just going to act. It doesn't matter what your opinion is on immigration. I frankly think we could do some kind of reform. But you can't do it by royal edict. We can't have a king doing it. And because he's been doing it all by himself, he never fixes the real problem, which is a completely open border. You can't have an open border and then offer some people forgiveness or acceptance, because then the rest of the world will go, hey, I'm coming too. And it may not all be true, but all throughout Central America, every child and family believes that he will not send them home. So they're all coming. There was a Pew study that said 700 million people would come. We're a country of 300 million. We can't accept 700 million people. But I'm not against immigrants. I'm not against immigration. A lot of farms have migrant workers, and there's a lot of reasons to have immigration. It helps to infuse our society. It's great to have immigrants. We were all immigrants once. But you can't have lawlessness. You can't have a president just say, if they won't act, I will. I have a pen. I have a phone. I will act. That's not what our country is about. I mean, the separation of powers and the Constitution and all of that was put in place so no one branch would dominate another, no one person would, that it was difficult. He complains that it's difficult. Welcome, welcome. This is what our constitutional republic's about, Mr. President. It is difficult. You have to go to the Hill, talk to Republicans, talk to Democrats, form a consensus. That's what it's all about. But it really worries me that he thinks he can just do this. If they won't act, I will. And I think it's terribly dangerous to the country to allow that to happen. We will continue to fight and try to preserve the checks and balances and separation of power in our country, but we need to be very wary of letting him act unilaterally. We're trying to take him to court over his unilateral amending of Obamacare. You can't just do that. If he wants to pass a law, he's got to try to pass a law. He's amended it dozens of times. Now, his argument would be, well, they left the legislation so wide open to let me do whatever I want. There is some argument there. Congress is not writing good legislation. We write stuff that's so full of holes that he can do anything he wants, and that's what he's doing. So we have to restrict him more in things we pass. But like Congressman Terry said, they passed, I think, over 300 good bills. Every one of them has died. We haven't taken up one of the bills that's been passed. So, that's probably a handful, but almost none of them have really been passed in the Senate. So the message I would like to leave you is, you have great chances this year in Iowa. I want to remind you, you've lost twice to President Obama. You've got to get your friends and family out. You've got to do more. Joni Ernst could win. I think all the polls show she's close. Sam Clovis could win. David Young definitely can win. So the thing is, it's not going to happen spontaneously. Get out there. People are now talking about it's not just your old-fashioned precinct. This is actually better for Iowa because your old-fashioned precinct might have been a lot of walking. Your precinct now is also your Facebook page for everybody. You can get to all your friends that way. This is how President Obama won too. He got two people to their virtual space. He found them and their friends around in that way. We've got to get everybody out. We have to get more people out than they do. And they out-hustled us last time. So I hope you're motivated because you believe strongly in our country. You want to see a recovery again. And I'm going to do everything I can to help. And I appreciate y'all coming out today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Good seeing you. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah?
Well, ma'am.